Okay, 3, 2, 1. We're here with an absolute Miami legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Bernie Kosar. Thank you so much for joining us. Carter Lutz, Steven Rivera over here, Canes Barber. How you feeling today?
Honored to be with you today. Feeling great.
Good.
Yes.
We love it. And, we have to talk about your legacy as a player, of course, and especially for someone like me. I got to school here in 2022. I wasn't born until 2003. So,
Making me feel old right off the bat.
I mean,
thank God I'm into longevity.
I hate to make you feel old, but we got to tell the people a little bit about your story. You came to Miami, you redshirted your first year, one of the most outstanding quarterback rooms in college football history. But for you, you really set the precedent for what this school could become as a football school.
Well, thank you. It's, to come here in 1982, how the University of Miami has changed, and then how the city of Miami has changed. If you really think back, and even for you, and probably your parents, who may not even have been born yet, like the late 70s, we had the Mario boat lift, and Fidel Castro kind of opened his jails and had the influx of people coming over here. And that really kind of changed a lot of the dynamics. And for me, coming from Northeast Ohio, to really learn about the Cuban culture was super, it was I don't want to say embarrassing, but it was embarrassing how little I really knew about it. And to come down here and see the beauty of the Cuban families and the camaraderie that materialized from that really kind of was put the DNA in me of why I kind of liked the University of Miami and the city of Miami. But it was a tough environment back then, and it really, I thought, coming from Youngstown, Ohio, that kind of toughened me up to be able to handle a big city like Miami. But I'm not sure anything could really prepared me for not only the football team, but what was happening within the city and the country at that moment in time.
Yeah, a culture shock.
Culture shock, to say the least.
Yeah, and you're from Youngstown. I'm actually from a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, so got to get that Midwest representation in here. But you came here, you took Miami to the title game, your first full season playing. When you guys won that game, you took down Nebraska. It changed everything. Can you take us back to that time, maybe the couple weeks following it, how the wheels really got going with this program?
Well, one of the things, put myself back at those times, and it's interesting to be on campus today thinking about what transpired to kind of get me over the hump. And it was kind of cool how you had mentioned how awesome the quarterback room was. But it was pretty intimidating to show up as a 18-year-old freshman and see Jim Kelly in there, Mark Richt, Vinny Testaverde, and Kyle Vanderwin. And really, I'm fifth on the depth chart there. And then to see that, thinking I'm going to be the starting quarterback and going to be playing, and then to see that I'm fifth on the chart, and to think I'm going to be a career backup, to have the courage to go talk to Coach Snellenberger, who deep down, God bless him up in heaven, I'm still afraid of to this day, okay, for Coach to go see Coach and to say, hey, Coach, I kind of thought I was going to be starting and had an opportunity to play, and here I am fifth on the depth chart, and I go, it doesn't look good for me. And he says, you're right, it doesn't look good for you. And that's not what you want to hear, as a young player, as a young kid, anybody wants to hear. But that type of reality check, and he said to me, he goes, anything in life that's great, like wanting to be a millionaire, wanting to be the University of Miami quarterback, everybody else in life wants that. He goes, and if you run from a challenge now, and you run home and you go back home to mommy and you say that, man, it was unfair for me down there, you're probably going to run from a challenge the whole rest of your life. He goes, it's better to go for it, do your best, and fail. Because if you at least go for it and fail, you at least won't spend the next 50 years of your life regretting or wondering, could I have done it? So the clarity of knowing that you could either do it or not do it is defining. But to not go and do it, he goes, you'll die from within that uncertainty of not knowing. So that kind of mentality, and it's awesome here at the U today to be here in a conference where we're talking about mentoring and who is some of our best mentors. It was about learning to fail and not being afraid to fail, knowing that you're able to get yourself better. And that kind of advice was something that, not running from a challenge and not that fear of failure, to be able to have me kind of reside, I think, some of the toughness that never will to quit kind of resides within me from that type of experience I got here at the University of Miami with Coach Snellenberger.
Yeah, and it's not only, not being afraid of failure, but how you manage failure and how you respond from that. But I hope that's something I feel like a lot of college athletes need to hear today, is you got to fight your way up that depth chart. And, now there's an easy out. You can go in the transfer portal, you can ask for money, and you can receive it. It's different nowadays, and, I know Steven has seen the evolution of all that, but it's pretty crazy, the state that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like the NILs that have happened in college sports and that is coming into high school sports. I'm not one of those. I absolutely believe that in the NILs, and I actually think that it's a great opportunity for not only just families and young kids, but it's an opportunity to start and learn a business. I mean, I'm proud to be a University of Miami graduate, and people say, oh, well, you're going to lose all their money. You can't give all the kids all that money. Well, I'm a University of Miami graduate. I like to think I was a good quarterback. I was an academic All-American, graduated from the business school, and I still went bankrupt at 38, okay? I would rather have done that at 18 or 22, okay, to have a chance to get started or reestablish myself 20 years earlier. So the life lessons that the young men and women, athletes are able to learn now, I absolutely believe lays a cool foundation of experiences, and a lot of them, get those awesome experiences, and their families get an opportunity to get a jump start in life financially. And I actually think that who are we to discourage that? And I'm kind of absolutely one of the guys that wants to optimize that for the younger people and for their families.
Yeah. 100%, they definitely are deserving of it. I'm in it more in a sense of like the developmental aspect of, coming. Coach Schnellenberger has a plan for you, and he carried it out. Nowadays, you don't get as much of that opportunity. But for you navigate.
But one of the things though that I do like, and I really love this at University of Miami, and I believe it's happening more within the pro teams, and because college and high school football is becoming more professionalized, it's happening more there, is even when I'm drinking with the purple detoxing energy water. A lot of the health and wellness stuff, a lot of the things that we're able to do in the sports world is actually stuff that really transfers over into lifestyles of longevity and stuff. So some of the mistakes, the unhealthy habits that I learned when I was your age playing football, now hopefully I've morphed into a transition of really making more healthy choices, understanding things that could optimize not only just your longevity, but optimize your performance physically and psychologically.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on today with mental illness and anxiety and depression, and a lot of us are trying to represent coolness. I mean, here I am as an ex-quarterback leading a bunch of University of Miami players or leading 53 guys on an NFL team, and I'm not an extrovert. I'm deep down introverted and try to manage anxiety. But if you're going to try to run a locker room or run a University of Miami locker room, and you're going to admit that you have anxiety and that, you're going to swim upstream trying to do that. So a lot of us are trying to figure out a Jimmy Johnson line. Jimmy Johnson, before every time we went out to start a game, he would say, somehow, some way, figure out a way to make a play to win the game. Well, now it's almost like, for me, somehow, some way, figuring out ways to be healthy and help out younger people and older people keep their minds and body in the game.
It's unbelievable to hear you still keep some of those messages with you for life. Steven, do you have anything to add on the sense of the mental health and really health in general aspect of where we're at with college athletics? These guys are so young, but it's definitely an issue being brought up more.
Yeah, I mean, especially now, I want to ask you a question in regards to that. Who was the guy taking care of the players when you played here at UM as far as haircuts?
So if you can see why I'm wearing a hat is I don't get many haircuts, and I needed to see you earlier for that. But back in the day, it was, things have really morphed morphed into a way better way of doing things. But it was incredibly militant back then, so where you weren't allowed to do really any of those type things. For that, I wish we had you around and had that type of open attitude back then for that. Yeah.
But that's what the reason why I asked that is because in the mental health space, I'm somewhat like a therapist to the players that are here at the university. They sit in my chair, they're able to disconnect from their coaches and family and just open up to me in the chair and let me know what's really going on in their mind, because it's a story that I always share. I'm not going to share the player, but I actually saved someone from committing suicide here on campus, a player who would normally get his hair cut every week at a specific time. And that one day that he didn't show up, you know, I was like, whoa, what's going on? I actually went to his room and he was literally sitting there about to stab himself. And that's the mental health space that, as a barber, we're there to listen to them. And I talked him out of not doing that. And mind you, he was dealing with a relationship issue where he didn't want to, you know, break up with his girl at the time. And eventually, till this day, he thanks me, like, man, you saved my life, Steve. And that's something, all I needed was to talk to somebody other than my coaches, my roommate.
Wow, God bless you. As you're saying that, I wasn't going to kind of go there with that, but for our listeners and stuff out there, I was number 20 when I played football here. I was number 19 in the pros. And being from Ohio, 19 people today, again, I love number 19 from being that in the pros, but 19 people today will commit suicide in the state of Ohio. Over 5,000 people in the last 12 months have overdose death just in the state of Ohio. As a guy who is overly scripted, I could have or should have been either one of those two statistics. So to hear you openly talk about therapeutically being able to counsel, therapy, some of us through those type issues. God bless you. So I believe I've been saved, and now I was told 9 years ago that I have 5 years left of cognitive brain function. I couldn't say cognitive, couldn't remember your Steve, couldn't sit in a chair like this and articulate, enunciate, communicate any multiple syllable words. So to be able now to have been saved and to find some healthy choices to hit my 62nd year of life, and believe a big studier of the blue zones and wanting to make it to 100 years old, this is something I feel super blessed to have found, but also really feel like it's a responsibility to have to share not only the story, not just to sit here and say, hey, I'm cool, or hey, I made it, okay? But to also show people that there's options, and what are the options out there before, again, whether I made the mistake as a parent, scripting my younger kids, some of my younger kids, for the Adderall Vyvanse, which is basically meth. So before we give our kids meth, okay, there's transitions with ultra-processed, processed fast food that we could get out of our diets, and there's some very healthy alternatives that we could do. So finding healthy replacements, I really challenge people to follow through with some of that.
It's fascinating, and you know, if you ask me, I'm sitting down with the Miami quarterback legend, and we're talking about mental health. If you asked me that a while ago, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't be asking these kinds of questions. But now we're in a time and age where it's healthy, where it's okay to have the conversation, and it's exactly
and again,
what we're
for
doing.
younger guys, well, here, 3 guys sitting up here talking about anxiety and mental health. Never could that have happened when I was your age. And if at your age I would have said that I had these type issues, every old white man would have ripped you, okay, for that, and made fun of you and humiliated you. So please, older guys, I'm as old school. I believe so much in the history and tradition and the old school way of doing things, but there are some antiquated dinosaur ways of communication that us men need to get out of our repertoire, so we don't educate young men the wrong way. Like when I was your age, I had some amazing football coaches that really mentored me in the right way, but I had some horribly bad old men around me who were insecure, who did not give good advice, and I so believed them about how men are supposed to act and how men are supposed to do things, that I really think is completely disruptive to our development.
Well, let's stay with it and go on some of your personal experience. You wanted to forego your senior season, enter the NFL draft, spark some drama, probably brought some pressure onto yourself. Nowadays, it feels like there's just so much pressure with young athletes, with the Twitter, with the decisions, with all the fans. From your point of view, like, what was your way of dealing with it in your situation?
Yeah, so things were different back then. Again, almost similar if you put yourself in Ohio right now with the lack of manufacturing jobs. And in the Midwest, how the economies have altered with manufacturing jobs really dissipating over the last couple decades. That was massively apparent like in the late 70s and early 80s. When I was growing up. So it made it tough to really understand, what are some of the options, out there for people as to what to do in that.
Yeah. Something of your perspective that I'd love to hear about is you're from Ohio, you went to the Browns, you were the quarterback of the Browns. What is it like to be the hometown quarterback? I mean, I was trying to even look at examples in like NFL history. There's not many of a quarterback quarterbacking their hometown.
Ohio legend.
Yeah, I mean, it must have just been the greatest honor, really.
It was, and it's actually because I actually had 2 years left. I had my junior and senior year of eligibility left. And because there wasn't NILs and because you weren't able to, and I, as a scarred Catholic, I couldn't take side money and stuff because I didn't want to go to confession or break any of the rules back then. But because the jobs weren't around in Ohio, my father was basically unemployed. And he gets mad, and my family gets bummed out when we talk about that. But we were really lower demographic steel workers. So when the steel mills closed, the jobs were gone. So I really left early to support my family. There's zero chance I wanted to leave because the University of Miami was loaded back then. Jimmy Johnson and Coach Snellenberger had loaded up the recruiting class, and I wanted to stay. But because there wasn't NILs and because my family, I was the oldest in my family, I almost kind of had to go to support my family, and then my brother and sister were getting ready to go to college and that type stuff. So I really kind of left not wanting to out of necessity because, you wanted to help support our family. Probably wasn't ready to go. I was still a little young and could have used another year or so. But again, Jimmy Johnson's line, somehow, some way, you got to figure out a way to make a play.
Make a play.
Somehow, some way, I'm now in Cleveland, and I got to figure out a way how to play. And I do say, awesomely humbling, so proud. But the truth, at that moment, okay, I'm a 21-year-old kid. I'm not even sure I was legal to drink just then. As I was flat out nervous. Yeah. I mean, here I am. I'm talking here about having anxiety and stuff, even in cool, easy times, let alone as a 21-year-old looking at Ozzie Newsome and Clay Matthews, and I'm showing my age right now to some of the younger guys, but these are guys that were men 10 years older than me, all pro guys. And a lot of us, I loved winning the national championship. I loved beating Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. But a lot of times the fear of failure is more predominant in you than that of success. So really, some of my great coaches used to say, you don't want to be it. And when I was your guys' age, I go, what's it? It's the reason why you lost today. Okay? So the fear of being the reason you lost was more pressing than at least for me, the ability of wanting to win. So people go, man, were you excited when you won the national championship? Were you excited when you got the Super Bowl ring? I do say yes, and ultimately now I am. But really, at the end of the day, when that first happened, it was friggin' relief. Yeah. It was relief that we got it, we did it, and I didn't screw up. Okay, because that fear of failure, you don't want to be the guy who has to remember certain things.
Because you know what it was like to be at the bottom. You know what it was like to struggle and to get there. It's, that's kind of what your mindset goes off of. Just keep going to the next thing. And
keep moving forward. Some of my great coaches, Howard Snellenberger, who was here at the U, Jimmy Johnson, Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Belichick. I'm so proud. I'm probably the only guy that's played with Jimmy Johnson at three places, at the U, at the Cowboys, and then finishing with the Dolphins. And they really, really taught you about the will to succeed and a mindset. And Jimmy Johnson used to always say, besides somehow, some way, figure out a way to make a play, he'd also say, the mind controls the body, not the body controlling the mind. And I really believe you could manifest positivity just like you could manifest negativeness. So the positiveness of the mind and being committed to what you're doing, that definitely resides from my football coaches.
I'm loving these old school Jimmy Johnson quotes right now. I might take them with me, put them on my fridge, get me fired up for the next season. But how do you compare the old Miami teams to what you saw this past year? How are you feeling about the team?
So I love what Coach Mario is doing and the synergy of Canes for life and the old school mentality. And again, I'm a spiritual healer in the fourth quarter overtime of my life as you start talking about being diagnosed with early stage dementia, Parkinsonian symptoms. I'm almost 5 months into a liver transplant. I'm as old school as it gets for that. But, and again, I want to be a spiritual healer as a wellness person right now, and it's the things I'm doing. That all being said, when I'm on a football field, it's completely the other way. And the old school way of playing football and the physicalness that University of Miami had in the 80s, and Coach Mario coming from the late 80s Canes, I think we're blending new school football with the old school Canes, and that convergence of that is absolutely optimized us to where there's no question we're back.
That's terrific. And how's that chair been? We've been doing chair reviews. What do you think of the situation you got?
I'm pretty comfortable in this. Could I move it in for the conference in there? You know?
You're the second person to ask that.
I want to say, on my way in, can I get a haircut? Huh?
Maybe you're on the way out, but we want to give you a platform for a moment here to talk about some of the wellness stuff, if you'd like to. I don't know if they might have mentioned that you wanted to touch up on something.
Well, you know, it's even like as we're talking through the show here. Most of us are trying to pretend to be cool. We're trying to pretend to have our act together. And we're sometimes with the insecurity, it's how do we really respond to stuff? And as a person who's wasn't healthy for most of my life, and then playing football and that, the choice of professions got me hurt even more so. I'm trying to figure out a holistic, healthy way to hit into I used to say late third quarter, early fourth quarter of your life. But when you're getting diagnosed with early stage dementia, Parkinsonian symptoms, I literally had a transplant 4.5 months ago. So to have a liver transplant and to thankfully a couple years ago started a kind of a health and wellness program with I call it the human biological approach. Try to get the body in position to naturally heal itself. So ultra-processed, fast food is our enemy. So we're not going to be cruising McDonald's and Burger Kings and
no big arches over
there.
No
big arches at that. So how do you flush and detox yourself? So one of the things is a pretend extrovert. You know, a lot of times in the pain medication world and the Adderall, Vyvanse, depression world of trying to find natural replacements and stuff. So even here with like my purple water, basically this is a natural 6-hour energy that flushes and detoxes. So sugar is our enemy and microplastics. So I believe in the stomach brain. So with my natural detoxing water, yes, it gives me 6 hours energy. So I'm borderline too chatty. But as an older guy with early stage dementia and Parkinson's, I'm supposed to be napping, sleeping, lethargic. I have a thing called fencing, midbrain paralysis. So you end up with 2 to 3 to 4 second delay. So typically I would have a thought in my head. It would take me 2, 3, 4 seconds to get it from my head to my mouth. That was happening to me a lot over the last 3 to 7 years and stuff. So literally, being able to do the protocols that I'm doing. If you notice today, I'm borderline too chatty, but I'm able to respond and answer within a half a second. So that's almost like back when I was your age again. So being able to have my body, but in my mind, kind of back in the game is really what I'm doing from a natural standpoint, and trying to do it and proudly doing it without psychoactive drugs.
It's unbelievable. You're a legend on the field. You're a legend off of it now with what you've been through and been able to do. It's terrific. It's inspiring. We'll close with one more question. We've been asking everyone. This is the biggest person we've asked it to. What's the biggest what if in Miami Hurricanes history, do you think? You could say from anything, whatever it is. I'm sure you got a lot in your head immediately. But.
So I'm so blessed. I've been in so many cool moments and so many cool games over my career, whether it's at high school, college, or the pros. But just this week, and I so love Coach Johnson, but there's a clip going on of the Hale Flutie pass.
Yeah. I was going to ask about it. I didn't want to touch on it.
No, that's cool. It's only taken me 40 years to get over it, okay? So, but on that play, it was one of the first times I got caught swearing on national TV. And as a scarred Catholic, I don't want to be going to confession on the weekend and stuff. So there was a suggestion of a play to run right with about 15, 17 seconds to go. And I used the F word on national TV. To run them over. So that ended up being correct, but we scored too fast. It was the only game I ever celebrated early was the Hale Flutie pass. So I could love to have that baby back.
I think I got your stats up here. I think I got them somewhere. 447 yards on 25 completions. It's a tough one to lose. I feel like after that, you got to just throw your hands up and that's it. But
well, all those yards. One of the things that I really was proud of is I'm a really good winner, but I was a bad loser back then. So didn't take any consolation in the good stats.
Well, Bernie Kosar, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
it's
guys.
an absolute honor and privilege.
Thanks, guys.
To have you join us.
Hey, and as we finish, though, I do one thing. I do the You Matter, okay? And I do of course, the University of Miami. But one of the things I do that, to talking about mental illness and how we look at people, is I do the You Matter for self-confidence and self-esteem. Because all of us, are trying to pretend we're confident and stuff, but we really, when you tell people that you matter, it really, especially younger people, it really helps develop their self-confidence and self-esteem. And I really think we've all been blessed. And take maybe something from this podcast today, it's spread the word out there to tell people they matter, because it really builds your self-confidence and self-esteem.
And it goes with what we're all about, and that's the You. I love that. That's terrific. Great way to end it. Thank you, Mr. Kosar. Thank you so much.
You matter. Call me Bernie, though. Thanks, guys.
So you should actually take a bottle. I love that. So it looks like they're signing the camera. Oh, that's really cool.
A special signature for it.
So you should try this. This is Bernie's